Hello, everyone. Um, it's exciting to be here. Today, I want to share with you my experience with the Nix and how we built our. Do you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And how we built our own remote cache solution, which is same as NX Cloud. So, firstly, I want to ask you: does anyone here using NX or know something about Linux? Raise your hands. Okay, there's a lot of hands. Great. So I will make a small brief description about NX for those who don't know. NX is a smart, fast, extensible build system, and yeah, NX helps you. Sorry, NX helps you. Ah, yeah. Um, yeah, NX consists of a set of tools that helps you to manage your monorepo more effectively. It helps you to segment your application, segment your whole workspace into applications and libraries. Also, you can tag them to define the dependency restrictions and also visualize. But the standout feature of NX is a possibility to the standout feature of NX is its ability to speed up tasks like building, linting, testing, and executing other commands faster. Yeah, speed up. So, how did they achieve it? They introduced affected commands. In a nutshell, instead of building the entire application, NX will build the code that was attached by your changes. So the illustration on the screen shows you the whole concept. For example, we have two applications, application 1 and application 2. We also have library. And when some of you touch a application 1, NX will only build application 1. And that's all. If we change library, it will also build your application 1, application 2, and library. Yeah. The second feature is a computation caching. Because we built our libraries by path, we should do something with those libraries that doesn't affected by your changes. And in essence, they introduced, they hashing your changes inside libraries and stores the cache inside this hash. Yeah, I know that this illustration is quite difficult to understand, but that's all we need to know about it. That it hash our changes and store into this hash our cache. Yeah, so by combining these two approaches, NX is able to reduce our build time, as you see, from 3 to 14 times. And that's true. That's true, because in our company we added NX and we reduced the whole build of our application from 15 minutes to 5 or 6. That's example, yeah, real world. But how does the CI system know about this cache? Because NX, by default, build your libraries and store hold the cache inside your local machine. And if you want to use cache, we need to store it somewhere. And of course, they have paid solution, NX Cloud. Yeah. So NX Cloud manages this cache and store it into the cloud. And everyone who have a access to the NX Cloud by token can download this cache, and yeah, they just reduce the build time from this 15 minutes or more to the 5 to, it depends what's your changes. And yeah, they have pricing plan. So for startups, it's $75 per month. For bigger companies, it's starting from $1,000 per month. Starting. Remember this word, because it might be more than 1,000. Yeah. And I'm here to demonstrate you how we can implement our own solution and get all these features for free without the registration and other links. Yeah, one link will be. I will share with you QR code that link into a public repository that I created. This repository contains an example application structure with remote cache implementation with AWS. And also I added extra comments, detailed comments, and added also README file to a README file with all descriptions and explanations how to deploy it and build on your own local machine. So at the end of the presentation, I'll share with you the QR code. Yeah. So when I began working with the Nix, I noticed that they storing their cache inside node modules. That was accidentally. As you can see, if we go to our .modules, .cache folder, and NX, we will find folder, hashed folder, that includes our library content inside. For example, share core button, yeah? That's our cache. As I mentioned before, this hash is our change. And also, below you can find a .commit file that is also important for NX, because without this file, NX will ignore our cache. And so now we know that cache is stored inside node modules. And if you copy those files and paste it to the same repository, NX will build our library with cache. NX reads the output from the cache instead of running the command for out of one. Yeah. From this point, you can let your junior developer extra task to build to build entire application and store it to the Google Cloud. And anyone who has access to the Google Cloud can download this cache, and yes, they will have a faster build. But we can automate it. We can automate this process. For those who are familiar with NX, should know about nx.json file. This file is a global configuration for our workspace. Yeah. This file contains default configuration, and if we take a closer look, we will find something that's called tasks runner options with default configuration. This configuration contains runner with some path and also options with cacheable operation. As I mentioned, we have build, lint, test, and E2E. So every time we build, lint, or doing another actions, NX will cache our changes, and next time we will build it faster. And this slide is crucial, because if you attempt to search for information, and for information about task runner options, you will come across with two links. The first one is a description of task runner options. And for me, that's a joke, because the description contains only 3 words: available task runners. For me, that doesn't tell anything. Also, we have task runner name, which contains options as any. Amazing. And runner as a string. And this is the whole page, without any explanations how it works. The second link is better, because this is configuration for NX Cloud. Yeah. And you can check that runner is different from the default task runner. Yeah, NX Cloud. And also we have extra option access token. And returning to our default configuration, we can notice that nx/task runners/default remind us a node modules path. And exactly. if we navigate to the node modules and locate to the path nx/taskrunner/default.js, it will be our file. Also for nx, nxcloud/index.js. For those who don't know, index.js, in JavaScript you don't need to specify index.js, it's just nxcloud. So yeah, we find our checkpoint. And if we go forward to default.dts file, we will have one line file with exported default task runner as a default. So we can go forward. And that's our checkpoint. Because we have exported remote cache with two methods, retrieve and store. Also we have default task runner options, which contains our remote cache object that linked to the remote cache interface. And the exported default task runner, which is our tasks runner with default task runner options. Before we go forward, let's examine what's a tasks runner. This is a function with three arguments: tasks, options, and context. This is a long story. You can research these three arguments, but this information is enough for us because we just need to export a method with these three arguments. So let's create, with this knowledge, we can create a TypeScript library, publishable library, with one exported file, task runner as a default, with three arguments, tasks, options, and context, which returns tasks runner. And we will use our default task runner and put all these arguments to this default task runner, task, options, and the context. Also, we know that our options includes remote cache with two methods. So we can extend our options with remote cache object and implement these two methods. As you can see, retrieve and store functions has two arguments, hash and cache directory. You already know that our hash, this is our change. This is our folder inside node modules. Also, cache directory is our folder that navigates to the .cache/nx, and yeah, that's our folder, .cache/nx. And if we'll join those paths, cache directory with path, with hash, we can zip our file on a retrieve function call and store it to the cloud. And opposite, we can use those files, use those parameters, hash, to download our cache from the AWS, for example, and paste, unzip it, and paste to the node modules. Yeah, so how NX builds our library? Before it starts build, it will execute retrieve function. And the retrieve function should return Boolean, true or false. And if we return true, that means that we downloaded a cache and we don't need to build a library. But if we return false, NX will build a library and execute function store. And inside this store function, we can we have our implementation of AWS or other cache cloud provider. And yeah, so now we need to build our library, link it with npm link to be able to view our package, to be able to view our library as a package, and change the runner string with our meet.js nx remote caching /remote cache /task runner. And that's all. From this point, you can use this knowledge to implement your own cloud solution for remote cache. For example, you can use AWS or Azure or Google Cloud or your own server to store this cache and download it from cloud. Yeah, so as I promised, I share with you QR code that contains this repository with the implementation, with the example the implementation of AWS. And yeah, so I prepared the small sum up with pros and cons of this solution. Our pros, this free. That's only take your time. You need to implement it and nothing more. So yeah, you don't pay for an Nextcloud, for example, $1,000 per month. You just need to spend 2 days. With this instruction, you need to spend 2 days to implement your own cloud provider to store and retrieve files, and that's all. You only pay for your cloud provider, for AWS, to store files, and yeah, that's simple. I hope that's simple for you because yeah, the information is a lot, but with this repository that I shared, you can implement this solution for 1 day, max 2 days. When I started to learn about Nextcloud, I spent 2 weeks to find this information and another month to implement it. So from now you can do it for 1 day. And this is customizable because we have all APIs. We can just download. Oh, sorry. We can just use this knowledge to implement our own UI. For example, like a Nextcloud, or to implement our own algorithms to manage our cached libraries, or create concurrency for a Nextcloud and sell it for cheaper. Yeah. The cons. NX updates their repository frequently, so you need to stay in touch with their updates, and if they change their API for remote cache, you need to change it too. This is hidden knowledge. As you saw, you probably need to download their repository and searching the information inside their code, because they didn't describe this information inside their documentation, and that's a problem. I spent 2 weeks to find anything about it. And your implementation. Yeah, your implementation is well, but their team is bigger than you1. So yeah, they know what they do, and their implementation might be better, but you need to pay for it. So thank you so much. I hope my presentation was useful for you.
Thank you.
My name is Illia Mishkin, and if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to ask me about it.
Sure. So I'm allowed to ask you one question in the time we have left, and the top question is it legal? Isn't it against some terms of service somewhere?
Yeah, NX is an open source tool, so this whole code is open sourced, and you don't have any restrictions for it. You can't overwrite NX Cloud, but you can write your own NX Cloud. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, NX is still MIT licensed, so the license is like this big on the screen.
Exactly.
There's no details in there that could prevent you from doing anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much.